Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about medical coding career after a certain age. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so I got this comment from a viewer, and age always comes up like in batches, okay? But I will say this. According to Social Security, right? The Social Security Administration, the age of retirement where you can draw full retirement is 67. Okay, that's the where you can collect everything. It's starting at 67. So with that said, when you are in your 50s and you're wondering, is this a career for you? Should you even try? You still have years of work time to do. And this happens. Sometimes people will be in a career for so many years and then they'll retire and then they just don't know what to do with themselves. And so they consider a career like medical coding, and which I will talk about here in a minute. But let me read this message before I get off too far into what I'm going to say. So here we go. So the viewer says, thank you, Blue. I will be 57 soon and have zero experience in the healthcare field. So I was wondering if pursuing medical coding made sense at this point in my life. I know age discrimination is a real thing in general. But in your honest assessment, is medical coding the type of career where being older is not a barrier? Also, what is your opinion on medical coding as a career with the emergence of artificial intelligence? Do you see AI potentially replacing humans? No, I don't. And when it comes to medical coding, and if not, why? Okay, so here's the thing. First things first, okay? It's just that putting out, oh, I know that age discrimination is a real thing. No, not really. When you think about it, people who put that limitation on themselves limit themselves in what they can do and where they can go and as far as they can push their career. That's you putting a self-imposed limitation on your career. My channel is filled. There's a whole group of people that are in their 50s, late 50s, early 50s, some in their early 60s that watch my channel, that have followed my advice, my independent study, and been able to pass and have been able to find jobs. It's when you start focusing on what are all the things that can go wrong. You focused on two things, this person did, that could go wrong. Oh, age, because they just know that they can be discriminated against, that it is a real thing. It is not a real thing. Because first of all, when you're out there and you got your certification in medical coding and you start to apply and you say, well, Blue, it's just because I'm so old. Okay, first of all, on your resume, it shouldn't go back no more than 10 to 15 years. Okay? No more than 10 to 15 years, because this is a snapshot of you in order so that you can be able to get in your foot in the door. Okay, that's what that resume is. It's not dishonest. It is just a quick snapshot of your skills. It doesn't have to have your entire work history. If you worked in the 90s, we don't care. If you worked in the early 2000s, again, we don't care. We need to know about the last 10 to 15 years because that's your most relevant skill. Okay, anything you done in the 90s or the early 2000s is not going to count. Anything in the 80s is definitely not going to count. Because first of all, do you even remember any of that stuff? Okay, so that's the thing. You need to stop thinking about, oh, it's my age. And a lot of people are working longer years, okay? And some of you may think, well, I don't want to work all these long years. I'm not talking about you. Okay, if you don't want to work, if that's not where you are at, you just want to retire, then by all means, go ahead and retire. I'm talking to those who want a second act career in life, or maybe even a third act career in life, okay, which they decide to do something like medical coding. Medical coding is all about using knowledge and skill. And no, you absolutely do not have to have a medical background. I say that like almost on every single video where I talk about anything like this. You do not have to have a medical background when you are getting into medical coding. I did not have a medical background when I got into medical coding. And people from all ages and stages and walks of life have gotten into this field successfully because they put aside those preconceived notions. Your age getting in your way of you getting employment when you're not even there yet is just is a setup for failure. Okay, being preoccupied with that is going to be a setup for failure. So what I will say is this: whether you are in your 50s, whether you are in your 40s, whether you are in your 30s, it is not too late to change into a career like medical coding. If you have been a stay-at-home parent for several years, you haven't worked, maybe this is going to be your first job outside of the home. Is it possible for you to get a job? Absolutely. But it is the self-imposed limitations that stop us from doing what we need to do in order to get into a career that we want to get into. Because otherwise, what will you be doing? What will you be trying to do? If this is something that is calling you, if this is something that you're interested in, it is absolutely possible. And the gentleman commented on a video that I did where I was talking about 1 year of self-study. Because I have made it simple for you all to be able to study on your own. I give you the whole syllabus of the independent study, and I break it down and I tell you all of the books that you need, so you don't have to go to a formal program, because it's a crapshoot sometimes with some of these programs, whether they are good and decent programs or not, and whether you're going to learn from those instructors. You have to be willing to learn on your own. So that it is possible, but you just have to do the work. Obviously, part of the hard work is already taken out for you. There is a syllabus that is free that I offer on my channel. And again, this person commented on that very video. You can see for yourself if you want to go ahead and go through all these months of study. You don't have to necessarily start working like in this field, but you can have a tie you over job until you get out there, so you can get ready to want to work in the in medical coding. But I would not recommend getting into like patient access or anything like that, because that's not going to help you to transition over into medical coding. Jobs that will help you transition over into medical coding are like medical billing and prior authorizations. Those jobs will help you. But anything else, make it in a different industry, so that way you can stay motivated in order to find your first job in medical coding. But again, if you're going to self-impose these limitations, it's just because they're going to discriminate against me for my age. Do you know the appeal of the older worker? Let's just be honest, the older worker, right? What is the appeal of the older worker? Those that are 40 and over, those that are 50 and over, those that are 60 and over. These are people that come from a time where they learned and there was no Google. They are used to doing the hard work. They are used to the heavy lifting. They know technology because, of course, everybody else learned it too, but they didn't grow up with it. I didn't grow up with it. It wasn't until I was in my teens that the internet really exploded. So these are people who know how to do research. They know how to do the hard work. They will read. They will do all of those things that they need to do. And that's more appealing to a lot of these employers that are looking for medical coders, because we don't need somebody that's going to go with the flow. We need somebody that is going to do the research and try to do things right. And not only that, when you're working with doctors, they want somebody that they can respect, okay? And the older worker, those that are 40 and over, 50 and over, 60 and over, they know the importance of dressing up when you go into an office. They know the importance of being respectful. They know the importance of when you write emails or when you write a message, that you're not writing in abbreviations. Not everything is an abbreviation. You spell things out. You're respectful. You say good morning, good afternoon, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. There's people who get all bent out of shape about, well, don't call me ma'am. What are they supposed to call you? You know what I mean? Like, to me, whenever I'm speaking with somebody, I'll say miss, I'll say mister, I'll say ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. I'll say things like that. And they say, well, my kids don't like it. I don't care what your kids don't like. I was raised with manners. And I'm a Texan, and we say yes ma'am, no ma'am. I do not get offended by that. And it is stupid for people to get offended by that. But that's the difference. Younger people will be like on a first name basis. You know, it's just like when the kids try to call the teacher by their first name. Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't. It is the same way with workers, you know, in health information and medical coding. So again, you bring a lot of just in general who you are as an older person getting into medical coding. There's no limitation on that. And if you say, well, you know, no, I'm too old. If you're 57 and the age of full retirement is 67, you got 10 years. 10 years to build a career. 10 years to, you don't even have to retire at 67. You can wait. You can keep working if you want to. I hope to never retire. Because why? Because I want to continue my work. I want to continue having my hand in the industry, and I pray that God gives me a strong mind so that I can touch more people, so that I can empower more people to quit limiting themselves on things like age, because it's just ridiculous. Why would you limit yourself that way? Why would you keep your gifts that you've earned in your lifetime to yourself when you could share them with an employer, and that patient's going to benefit from somebody who is caring, who pays attention, who does their work, who knows how to do research, who knows the meaning of hard work, and who knows how to look things up. Not saying that young people don't know how to do that, but I'm just saying that younger people, you know, the Gen Zs and all them, Gen Alpha and all them that are coming up, you know, they're a little bit more, well, I want to have work-life balance. You're a Gen Z and you're talking about work-life balance. Get out of here. Get out of here. Because of the simple fact that you need to work. And there's a lot that they don't want to work, or they want a list of demands met before they start working. You need to work. You need to work so that you can build yourself to be the professional that you have the full potential to be. It takes work, okay? So, you know, whichever boat you're in, you know, I'm not saying that all older workers are perfect, but what I am saying is this: there's a huge difference between somebody who was raised not with the internet and somebody that was raised with the internet. I'm just saying, okay? And while I straddle that line, because I am Gen X, but, you know, towards the end part of Gen X, but that's the thing, guys. You know, when you are in these, when you're coming up into the industry, the only one that's going to limit you is you. And the only one that's going to stop you from doing anything is you. If you're going to let your age stop you, it will always stop you. People get into things later in life all the time. You go on Instagram, you can be inspired and moved by so many that started medical school at 40. That is incredible. That is incredible. But because of the physical demands, not just the mental demands of being a doctor, but the physical demands. You know, residency is not an easy thing. It is not easy at all. You are on long shifts. You know, but they still manage to do it because that's what they want in their life. That's what they want to be able to do. So again, if that's what you want, then you will be able to do it. If you want to sit here and look for any and every excuse, or listen to stupid people who don't know, then you will get what you get. Okay. And for the second part of this question, which is about AI, you know, I find it humorous when people who are not in our industry, that's the first question that they ask me. Well, what do you think about AI? The reason that it's humorous to me is because I know they're listening to some idiot who doesn't know about what we do in our industry and is preaching this whole thing about AI, how AI is going to take over, how there's not going to be a need for medical coders anymore because, you know, there's AI out there. Let me tell you something, okay? I've been in this industry since 2008. That's when I got certified, right? We were hearing about AI back then, okay? And here's the thing. Every single provider is going to document differently. That's first of all. Not every doctor got the same medical schooling, right? When they went to medical school, not every single one of them had the same kind of professor. Not every single one of them had the same kind of training. Some doctors are more studious than others. Some of them do more research than others. Some of them don't care. They're just there just to collect a check, and they're okay with it because, you know, they have student loans and they just need to pay them off. they don't have that drive that they once had, or maybe they were forced because of a family member. They wanted to do it for somebody else, they didn't do it for themselves, so they have that attitude. Okay, so there's always that. But the thing that you have to think about is this: AI does not have the ability to critical think. And because it doesn't have the ability to critical think, it's not going to be able to recognize all the things from all these different providers with all these different levels of education for all these different unique patients. Because every patient is unique. Not every patient is going to have the same risk factors. Not everyone is going to have the same body weight, body mass, and all of these other things. There's going to be a lot of things that will change the way that you treat each and every single patient. And because of this, AI can only go so far. Remember, AI is dumb in the fact that it is only looking for whatever it is programmed to look for. It does not have the ability to critically think, in the fact that it's going to say, if the documentation says a patient has HX, which is history, HX of, let's see, they have a history of, let's say they have a history of pneumonia, right? And so AI might pick up, okay, the patient has pneumonia. Or the patient used to be a tobacco smoker. And then under history, right? They say history, patient history, and then they list out all the conditions, tobacco user, right? But it's under the history, so we know that the patient's no longer using tobacco, right? Because it says history, and if the documentation obviously reflects that. But what is AI going to pick up? Oh, we see tobacco user. So we're going to pick that up. It's going to pick up everything. And so all of the things that it's picking up are not critically looked at. That's why coders are needed, okay? And again, not every facility is going to have the funds for artificial intelligence, because of course, these people that are running these programs, they're going to charge an arm and a leg and say, oh yes, it's going to be so good for your firm, so good for your practice. There's a lot of lawsuits going on out there right now, if you look, and they're all about these AI programs that overpromised their abilities and their capabilities of their stupid program. And people that fell for it, and then all of a sudden they got a bunch of claims denied. But they got a bunch of claims denied because you used a crappy AI system to help you instead of a human being. So sometimes when these companies learn that the hard way, then they go back to, okay, well, we need very competent coders. And that's why I will not worry about AI. Other people may worry about AI. Other people may think, oh yeah, it's going to take over. Again, just stupid people saying things like they know and they don't know. If you know, or if you have any kind of experience in our field, you're going to understand that much like how the electronic health record, how computer-assisted coding came out, how the encoder came out, AI will be the same thing. It will be a tool that we will use to help speed up production. Because before the electronic health record came out, it was, of course, the providers documenting. So, of course, the coders are going to have to sit there and look at all the documentation, abstract all the documentation, because nothing is pre-selected. It's just they were working off of paper, and they were working off of handwritten notes. Remember. So then, of course, the electronic health record comes along, and now the providers have the ability to be able to pre-select their codes. Okay, so this is going to speed it up a little bit for the coders. And then, of course, there's an encoder that comes along. An encoder, if you don't know, is an electronic code book. So coders had the ability to be able to put in a few words and just type in like whatever they wanted to get, the code, and then answer a few questions through a decision tree. And then all of a sudden the encoder would produce the code. Sometimes it's right and sometimes it's not right, depending on if you're answering the question accurately. But guess what? That sped up the speed of the coding. So now claims are able to be processed a little bit faster. So now the provider is able to get their money back a lot quicker, because then the claims can get paid quicker. So again, computer-assisted coding, that was another thing that came right along right at the same time, right? And computer-assisted coding is going to give you options, and it gives the provider options. It will highlight words that it thinks that it's needed, right? To be able to select a code. So there was one that that I saw, me personally, the computer assisted coding and all the software, it was highlighting fall, right? So it's saying that there's an injury here. There's a flag. It's saying that there's an injury here. And I'm looking at the documentation, and do you know that when I was reading the documentation, the provider said that the patient has had this condition since the fall. What they meant was, because I'm looking at it and I'm reading it, is that they had it during the season. It started during the season of the fall. But again, AI doesn't understand this, so it's looking for an injury because a patient fell, and it's saying that there's an external cause code for a fall here. So where is the injury at? But it's not that. The provider was referring to the season and not the injury of a fall. So with things like this, and people that think they know and they don't know, producing stupid things like this, I'm not going to be focused on AI, because AI, again, cannot think like a human can think. And if we do get to that point where they start thinking like a human thinks, then we got problems. We got other problems to worry about. But for the meantime, in between time, I am going to enjoy my career, because if I had to listen to those stupid people, those same stupid people who were telling me about this back in 2008, I wouldn't even be here with my career as long as it's been. 16 is going to go on 17 years this year. So that's the thing that y'all need to consider, is that when you're somebody like this and you start asking people that are, one, not in our industry, two, that maybe they are a healthcare worker, and again, a healthcare worker, it doesn't guarantee that they know, especially my nurses. My nurses like to say that they know about coding, and you have no idea. If you're not a coder, you haven't taken a coding class, you don't know anything about coding, I mean, what relevance is what you're saying? But again, if you're the one that's speaking and this person's asking you, why don't you just say you don't know? You know what I'm saying? I mean, let them find out on their own instead of pretending like you know and you don't. At least this is my advice anyway, you know. But that's what I will say to that, is that if you're worried about artificial intelligence, you're just looking for another excuse that it's not going to work out for you. Or if you're saying, well, you know, I'm too old. Again, another excuse why it's not working out for you, you know, or why it potentially would not work out for you. Rather than, where can I learn this? And where are some resources that I could find that would really help me? Of course, looking through my channel is going to really help you with that and be able to guide you where you need to go. But again, it's just let me ask 100,000 people, and then let me ask somebody who actually knows. To have to undo all of that, no. I won't do it. I won't do it, because clearly you went about it the wrong way to ask all these other people that are not in our industry before you went and asked me, okay? And again, the only reason that I say this is because when it comes to this kind of thing and you're trying to decide and do all of these things, listening to other people and that don't know can really change your outlook on things. It can really change your attitude, and it's very important to be very careful when you're doing this, okay? When you are looking for information and you see a channel like mine and you see all these things, all the subjects that I cover, from how to study and, you know, being an older worker and studying, being an older student and studying, and how here's the tips that you need to follow. Whether you're young or old, you know, young people tend to not listen too. You know, they don't listen sometimes. You know, they want to look for ways. What's the shortcut way? How can I get out of this? I've been told before, well, they want to make sure that reading the guidelines is not a waste of their time. Okay, now you're wasting my time. You're wasting my time because you're telling me something that I know is going to help you, which is read the coding guidelines, and you're asking me if this is a waste of your time. Now you're wasting my time. Please exit to the left. Because, you know, no one has time for that. Okay? And I will tell you very straightforwardly, straight and bluntly, I will tell you. And again, you don't have to like it. It's not my job to make you like what I say. It is my goal and my hope that you will listen, it's so that you can get good advice, and so that you can know what you have to do, even though you may not want to, but it's only meant to help you. At least this is my advice anyway. So with that said, guys, if you want to do this, go for it. Don't get into medical coding for the wrong reasons. The wrong reasons being that, oh, I want to travel. No, this is a stationary position. Either you are at home, if you're working remotely, you are not out gallivanting all over God's green earth, okay? And I don't care what anybody says. You do not do that, because you have to have a secure internet connection, and oh, I'm connected to the VPN. Okay, but you still have to have a secure internet connection. You still have to have good internet to be able to do your job, okay? Because remember, you're drawing on a lot, you know, and it's not something that you can just do easily and connect to Wi-Fi all willy-nilly. No, we protect records. That's what we do. Okay, if you want to do it because, oh, you want to stay at home and raise your kids and things like that, stay at home and raise your kids and do something else in the meantime, in between time, because if you're going to do this, it needs your attention. They don't pay you to stay at home and take care of your kids, just so you know. Okay, and then the other thing is, you know, if you're doing it for the money will follow those who are not looking for it. If you are doing this as your second act or third act in life, and you say, well, you know, I'm used to making X amount of dollars because I used to be a nurse. Okay, well, good for you, but the stakes are not the same. First of all, second of all, you have to work your way up just like everybody else. So it's not to say that you can't negotiate a higher starting salary, but it is to say that just because they're offering you, you know, what they're offering you doesn't mean that you have to take that. You can always ask them, is there room to negotiate? And then you can bring up all of your experience in medical if you have medical, or any other experience that you think would be relevant to putting you in a good footing for this position. You can always ask them that. If you are at a point where, you know, okay, well, I can negotiate and I can ask them. The worst they can say is no. You know, as my Uncle Kyle says, a closed mouth does not get fed. If you do not ask, they will not offer. I'm just saying. So with that said, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.